Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
What is going on, Causing the Effect community? If you're watching, thank you for joining us. If you're listening, as always, thank you for the support. We are here with Sage Polaris, the conscious launch strategist. Sage, how did you end up, very briefly, how did you end up where you are today? Like, how'd you get to that story?
Yeah, the cliff notes of it, right?
Yeah,
So 10 years ago, I wanted to start a business online, mostly because I didn't know how much I would fall in love with my son, who I had just had. And so the Cliff Notes version is I was kind of doing like travel blogging already, and doing some writing online and starting to really fall in love with it. And then I came across a book called The Well-Fed Writer by Peter Bowerman. And I got introduced to what's like a marketing world, right? Like, so using your words on your website to sell more of your service and product. He was what we call a copywriter, which has nothing to do with legal. It's a marketing term. And I fell in love with the idea of connecting with people online with the words on your website. I was like, whoa, okay, this is a whole world. And slowly built up my business from there, started like networking locally with the chamber, my business chamber, and writing websites for business owners. Cause you know, it's funny, like almost every business owner I know, they're like, I hate the writing aspect. There's a few who love it. There are a few who love it, but the majority lean towards hating it, which is great for me. That's how I built my business. I was like, well, I love to write. Let me do all your writing for you. And then it evolved over the years. As you can imagine, like the internet years go by fast, right? And like the ability to learn. And so I got into helping clients who wanted to launch, where they had like an online education platform that they wanted to build out, like have a membership or something. Usually they have a book, there's some kind of thought leader in their industry. And so now I'm helping them sell their courses. And that's like a whole other side world of copywriting that I'm in. And I love it so much.
Yeah, you educated me on what copywriting was. I'm so happy you said legal, because that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, legal? And then I educated myself. So it sounds like you were like way ahead of this curve of because like the first thing anybody does when you meet somebody, when you're having a guest on, you're going to their website to see what the deal is. Like, yeah. What is the difference between, like me, if you said, Scott, you have a minute to meet somebody, I'm like, I got that. It's me, baby. But what is the difference between, like, how are you trying to do that with words? Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, I love that. You're like in a New York minute. Let's do this. Well, you know, it's relating to people with the words that you use. Understanding your audience is a big part of it. And speaking to the things that feel relevant to them. Like even me making a joke about the New York minute right now, knowing that you're from there. Those are ways that you relate to your audience on your website too. So I'm all about personal branding when it comes to the website. I am not buttoned up. I am not corporate, and neither are my clients, right? So they'll bring up little things that kind of pique the interest of their audience, knowing that it's something that they'll relate to too. And that's really the part of the formula for writing good copy for a website and getting someone eager to work with you. And then there's little things that I'll tell you, like it's not just the words, it's also the imagery, right? Like we're a very visually driven society at this point in our lives and just generally in the ether. And so one of the things that I have on my website is a picture of me with a pink pin under my nose like this for people who can see us, right? And that, I didn't realize how much that would resonate for people when I took that photo.
I loved it. I was like, she's chill.
She's chill.
Joke.
Well, I have clients, their like husband will come into the frame and like start doing that. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then I remember they're like doing it because I have a photo. They're like sticking a pin under their nose. So that relatability, right, with that image, but also telling a story that I'm a writer, right, because it's a pin. So those types of things are how you really appeal to your audience. And right, you said it felt like I was a chill person. Like you could instantly just shoot the breeze with me, right? So that's where that comes from.
Gotcha. Cool. Now, how much time goes into two pieces I want to ask you about? The authenticity of a person and then figuring out like their audience or their mission or their value. How much time goes into that pre-work, or did your clients kind of already have an idea of that? What do both those pieces look like? The figuring out their value and then the authenticity.
Yeah, I think I'm always refining it for them. we're always polishing it, we're upgrading it, you know, we're doing what is already working for them and multiplying that. So a lot of them have a sense of who they are, and so they're not brand new in business, right? They're not trying to figure out their identity, but I used to help people who were, right? And so it would be a process in terms of the intake, like asking them key questions about their daily life and then integrating that. And the perfect example I can think of right now is a woman named Amber Housley. She's from the South, right? She lives down there in the US, and she had this very like Southern hospitality vibe about her. And so we just brought it out more and like put lines on her website that say like, grab your sun hat, darling, meet me on the digital porch.
Mm-hmm.
So you use it. What's great about it is like everybody's living their life. So we all have a personal brand already. It's like the tea that you drink, it's the coffee that you love, it's the, you know, it's all these things that make you up who you are. And then we just pull them through and use that to relate to people.
I'm being selfish, thinking about it for myself, just as we go through this. Now with the influencers, right? Everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody thinks that they have something of value. Like, what is the biggest mistake that you see people making in that world with, as far as the personal branding goes?
Yeah, I'm taking notes as we go.
Yeah, sure.
Looking down. You know, let me just speak to one other piece you asked me about that I kind of forgot to address, which is the mission, right? Yeah. Like, I will say it's quite important to me that I work with people who have a mission. And most of my clients now have sat with Oprah at one point. That's just a good rule of thumb to know. Like, the type of people I like to work with are very mission driven. They care more about others around them than, you know, always just like making a fast buck. Like, it's not about that. It's about building communities online. And I think with influencers, it's an interesting thing. Like, a personal brand is a wide spectrum, right? So I do have clients who consider themselves just to be online influencers, but a lot of them are influential in terms of the type of impact they want to create in the world. So that gets back to that mission piece, right? So the mistakes that I see people making is they want to build an audience to make a fast buck. Like, that's the thing that they care about the most. All they see is dollar signs. And I think people see through that pretty quickly. I think that they're using their audience in a way that's irresponsible for the level of power that they hold. And I'll be honest, I have fired clients for those reasons. Like, if I see what I see and I call them in privately, I don't call them out publicly, and they don't take notes and they don't immediately make change, it's really not for me. So I think their audience will be keen to it quickly. And that's the mistake that they're making, is they're squandering an opportunity to build a positive community. There's plenty of negative media out there. Like, go find that somewhere else, please, right? Like, let's keep this. And that's that whole conscious piece, right, to the work that I do, is like being aware that we all hold a certain level of power, even me as the person who's serving the client, and using that in a conscious way versus using it just to profit and not really think about the people you're supporting.
That's exactly what I want to hear, because I know in this world, is particularly with the personal branding, it's just, you know, by doing this podcast, I could just, the New York thing, I smell the bullshit, and it's hard, Sage. How's your bullshit meter?
It's high.
Has to be high,
I've
right?
been in business for 10
Yeah,
years and I have a husband from New York. So it doesn't take long for me to be like, yeah. And, you know, it's like over the years, I personally, and I'll speak to other people who are service providers in the online world, like, it takes some time to really know what's going on around you, and you will make mistakes, and then you learn from them. And as long as you take it into a teachable moment and don't like have it, don't continue making the same mistake over and over again, because clients in the online world move fast, and if you can't move quickly with them, sometimes they will run you over. So you got to be conscious of all of these things as a business owner, alongside who are you going to align yourself with, who do you love, and who do you want to support and see more of out there. Because I think we do need to balance it out in terms of the negative social media that's out there and the potential for it to be a very positive place to build community. And that's why I love your podcast, actually. I was listening to Cass Thomas on episode 182.
Everybody loves Cass. Cass was phenomenal.
It was so good because she was talking about like mindfulness, and I got so excited to hear those are the types of people I want to see more of in the world.
I think that's all I want is just mindfulness people. Everybody else I'm sick of. And it's like, I think in this space, I'm learning, you said patience. Like I've learned, because I hired a social media marketing girl because I don't know the branding. I leave that up to you guys. Right.
Yeah.
And I've been learning patience. Like patience for me is key of like, this is a process. And like, even you don't realize, even if you get 2 or 3 messages a week by somebody, like that's really important. And I wasn't even paying attention to the people messaging. Like I was like, who? And then you start realizing like that is what you're trying to do, you idiot. Like that is the people that you want to help. And it's just funny. I think you get so focused on the views or the whatever, this and that, you hit numbers. It's like,
yes.
Fuck the numbers. That's what I said this year. I was like, don't worry with numbers. Just worry about connecting with people. And I realized for me, like I was looking deeper, like what gives me the best feeling? And it's like, when I get that message and I help somebody, it's like, that's it. That's the reason why we're doing it. And when I started making it simpler, it just started connecting. I think like everybody in this space, the positive world, whatever you want to call it, spirituality, like all of us could raise the consciousness almost of the social media platforms, because, you know, there's a lot of the fake accounts, the nonsense, the this, the that. It's like, now back to that other question. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making with social media in general? And then to add on top of that, how do you guide your clients with the different platforms? Because for me, it is overwhelming. Twitter, Facebook, you know, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah, we have so many opportunities to be online. So where do we show up? I think the first mistake, though, you kind of named without knowing it, is not learning the basics before you even hire someone to support you with that. So understanding the basics of whatever platform you're on is really important. Which platform do you love the most right now? So I can kind of like.
I'm only aware of Instagram, to be honest with you. I'm not even going to pretend to know. I opened up I'm going to embarrass myself. I opened up a Twitter account like 5 days ago and I'm just overwhelmed. I'm like, I can't do this. There's characters people want me to share or they want me to write. I'm all confused. So just Instagram is what I'm familiar with at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the first thing, though, is to focus on one platform at a time. That's kind of why I want to narrow in the conversation, right? But also it's a conscious decision you have to make, because it's easy to get distracted by all the potential of growing. And I do think that there is some misinformation in the marketing world about like, you have to be omnipresent on all the platforms. Don't do that. Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, you want to master one platform at a time. So that is the very first thing to keep in mind about social media. So with Instagram, just understanding the basics of how that platform is working right now. I went on your IG. I really loved it. I was excited. I liked that.
Cool.
There was a variety of posts, right? Like, and I'm not, you know, whoever you're working with, I'm sure they're amazing at what they do. But that there was different ways to engage with your posts, because and this is the thing that I teach actually. So maybe we can kind of segue into that, is that you need to understand that there's 4 types of people who consume your content. So there's a type of person who might play a video, right? Like they are what I call the deep connection decision makers. They connect more with seeing video on your platform. So Instagram has that option, right? Like you can put an IG live, you can put a clip as a reel, you can do all these things. So lots of opportunities for that particular type of buyer or even person who consumes your content to actually engage with your content. So I clicked on a video when I landed on your Instagram because I wanted to get a sense for how you talk and who you are and all those things as we were getting to know each other. There's there's 3 more types of people who will land on your Instagram. The next person is the fun-loving decision maker. And whenever they consume content and they like want to like get to know you, they're looking for fun-loving stuff. They want stuff like GIFs, music lyrics, puns, those types of things. In fact, on my Instagram recently, I said that I was watching Don't Look Up, the movie, and it was a static post. You could just read it, but it's very easy to read because it's got like a graphic and it says, after watching Don't Look Up, I had to read poetry. Just me, whistles and walks away. That was the post, right? It was very easy to read. I didn't know it was funny until I had said it to someone, like a group of women privately in a car, and they all started laughing. And I just thought, like, didn't you feel cynical after you watched that movie? Have you seen Don't Look Up, by the way?
I know the story. I have not seen it though. I know it's, I've seen memes exactly. Yeah, I've
it's
heard.
pretty dark. It's pretty cynical. And it's an important, I think, like read on what society is like right now. Anyways, the point of that is I put a post on my Instagram that's funny and fun loving in a sense, because I know certain people like, oh, I like her. Even the pin under the nose, right? That's for the fun loving type of people who consume content. So now that I've told you about the deep connection and the fun loving person, do you identify with either? I'm always curious to see.
Who I am?
Yeah,
I would say, okay, let me preface this also that I've been yelled at by the social media girl of like, Scott, you have to put yourself out there more. And we can get into this, and it's a confidence thing. It's like there's no pictures of me, and I don't want you bringing this up, Sage, and put me on the spot. But I'm not the most confident person on social media. But I would say off the bat, I am more of the video person, of the deeper. And this has made me think, and I was going to ask you this, like, is podcasting driven more towards a certain social media platform? Because for me, it seems Instagram is for a certain type of profile, but you're telling me it's for different styles of people. So you are giving me a little bit of hope here. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is a good question though. Like, where does podcasting live best? I think that podcasting does really well on YouTube because of if you are using video, the video aspect, but only specifically if you're using video. With podcasting, I have yet to see someone exclusively put it on Instagram and make a real, like, how do I put this? Like, Instagram is short content and podcasts are long content.
Exactly.
So taking pieces of the podcast and getting people to follow you from Instagram to listening to the whole podcast, as long as you drop a lot of links, particularly in your Instagram stories, I know it'll do well, because I listen to podcasts from other people's Instagram stories. So stories is the only place on Instagram where you're allowed to put a link. So then it creates that engagement where they can follow through on the thing, right? But at least in your feed, in your Instagram feed where all the tiles are, it's good to put short pieces of your podcast on there for people to get to know you. It is good. So I think you can leverage it. You just have to use some really smart strategies to get people to follow up in terms of engagement and not just listen to that one short reel that you put on your Instagram, right? Like, so you got to leverage stories. So I think it's like, as long as you understand how the tool works, it could do amazing for podcasting. YouTube is so easy because long form content can live there. The thing that people miss on putting their podcast on YouTube though, and we're getting pretty deep on strategy. I hope everyone's like not glazing over with this.
It's fine.
But with YouTube, you need to have a link to your lead magnet as like the closing, I forget what they call it, like the closing image. There's a name for it. Anyways, on the closing image, you can make at the end of the podcast a clickable link to your lead magnet and get them on your email list. So my point of all of these strategies is to have someone continue on with you in a relationship and not just have them listen to the one thing and be done, right? So you have to decide which marketing channels you want to have be incredible for your business and stay there and really understand the strategy and make it work from top to finish. And so that's my thing. And so with multiple platforms, I don't recommend it until you figured out one platform. Don't go to the next, right? Like, don't just, unless you are just having fun. Like, some of my friends just have fun on TikTok. They don't promote their business at all. Go have fun. I'm never going to stop anyone from doing that. Yeah. So it's understanding though, truly understanding the platform and how to continue with engagement and not just have it be, it's like dating, right? Like, you want it to go on for a long time and not just be a one-off.
You can't be dating 3 women at once. It doesn't work. I've tried.
Okay, there you go. Confirmation.
I can't do it. It just doesn't work. Just focus it on one. Well, this is what happened now. I let Clara, shout out to Clara. She listens and does a lot of stuff. She killing it on the Instagram. But I said, I want to learn YouTube. And we have the video and it's been up for like a month. Like, numbers are up 30% just because the population on YouTube is just so large. Like, even if you're getting 100, 150 views at this point, these are people that are all gonna, it all kind of corroborates. I'm really enjoying the YouTube. Twitter, I think I'm gonna take a note out of Sage's book and just hold off on the Twitter because I gotta master YouTube, so to say. But you said such an interesting point that, like, I think the most crucial point in any business is making that relationship like a real relationship, like not some bullshit like, oh, thanks for subscribing, and then never talking to them again. Like, how do you get people to engage more with because I feel like with even I'm talking from a personal experience of like, it's it feels different than, you know, and I could talk to people every day for my job. It's easy. But like when it comes to social media, how do you really create that relationship with somebody?
Yeah, I love this because it's different, right? Like I personally have marketed my business both online and in person. And I will tell you my highest earning per lead, which these are human beings, but that's a marketing term that we use, earning per lead, has always been from speaking from a stage and being in the room with people. So then how do you recreate that online, right? Like
Exactly.
it, you know, it's a beautiful opportunity that we have here. And I think one of my biggest things about building relationships online is, yes, I am a personal brand and people come in because they feel connected to me, but the sooner I can get them to feel connected to each other, the longer lasting my business will be. So that is what I have learned over the years. So for me, that forum, like the specific place that I want people to feel connected to each other is if you pay to be in my copy template membership, I have a private Facebook group only for paid members and they stay connected there. So that is the weaving, like how I weave them together as a community and how we can create a movement where we're all supporting each other. And then it's less about them feeling connected to me as it is about them feeling connected to each other and just doing little things. Like when we have a call coming up, I'm like, okay, everybody, it's springtime, wear yellow to the call so that they can all feel connected to each other. Those little touches, even though it's still online, makes them feel like they are connected. And it not just makes them feel, they are actually connecting to each other. And like when I show up to a call, there will be like in the beginning of like my membership, when I have a launch and I have like 50 people come in at a time, let's say, they're all very focused on me and I'm very aware of it. But over time, I start to notice that they speak to each other more, either in the Facebook group or on the call. And I know I'm doing my job then. That's when I'm like, okay, this is headed in the direction that I knew I could get it to. So as much as some people love to make their brand about them, I think you have to make it about your members as much as you.
Very cool. No, I like to hear that. Now give me, what's an example or a standout case that you had where it was just like one little tweak or even, you know, something you changed that just had a massive effect on one of your clients?
Oh, actually, I want to tell a story about something I did recently.
Oh yeah, sure.
In January, I was running a Facebook ad and I changed one line in the copy. And ads are very hit or miss. They're fickle beasts. to have them working your business, like you'll run the same ad and suddenly it's not working. You're like, what is going on? Anyways, I had changed one line in this ad to say, if you apply to join my free copy course, I want you to put I'm in the chat, like in the comments below the ad. I changed that one line from like a year before I had run it, and then I ran it again this last January 2022. And I got so many comments and so much engagement. And why? Because other people could see each other signing up. So they were like, oh, that person's in, I want in too. So it had that multiplying factor. And suddenly I was getting like hundreds of comments on an ad that never got any engagement before. And suddenly everyone wanted to be in because they saw someone else was in. So that's a perfect example.
Just by making something a little bit more available, letting people see, you know, whatever that case may be, that's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, and giving them the words to say, making it easy, no friction, right? And then engaging with them. So this is the part. After they put I'm in the comments, we make it a point to write them back, every single person. And at first I was doing it all myself. And now I have a team who helps me respond to everybody on the ad, because it's the first time they're experiencing me. A lot of them, like they've never heard of me at all. And that little touch of saying hello to someone when they comment. That's the thing you were talking about earlier. Like people are talking to me and I don't know what to say. Just say hi. That's all they want. They just want to be seen.
Same thing. We're going up to a girl. Everybody's asking me, what do I say? Just go up and say hi.
I love that we bring it back to dating. That's
all goes back
metaphor.
to dating. Yeah, that's now I think you gave me two of the Instagram personalities. What are the other two? And are these tying into like the DISC personality traits? Is that the same thing we're talking about here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing that I'm known for is this framework of taking DISC, which is a personality quiz, and applying it to the way that people buy, right? Like, so DISC is meant for like self-development folks. Like you use it to figure out more about your personality and understand how you operate in the world. And I had never seen anybody take that kind of framework and apply it to like persuasive techniques for buying online, right? Like I immediately in my mind saw it like, oh, if you are those two other decision makers, the fun loving or the deep connection, this is how things appeal to you. But then there's two others, like you said, that we haven't talked about, that are part of the DISC model. I don't use it exactly like verbatim on what DISC teaches. So just kind of stay with me because I've made my version of it.
I'm a 99I, so you know. So that's
okay. So tell me, is that the fast decision maker, the slower decision? Which one would you say it is? Fun loving? Because I don't even know.
I think that would not be fun. What are the four? Tell me your four.
Yeah, let me tell you the other two because I think I know what you are. I don't ever read people unless they ask me to, but I think I know what you are. Okay, so let's talk about the fast decision maker. So the fast decision maker is the one who is a great starter, horrible finisher. They are ideas person, runs a mile a minute, can do all of the CEO decisions, just go, go, go. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, but that's their strength. Like they can show up and just make things happen quickly. When they engage with, like, let's go back to Instagram, like your Instagram posts, they're never going to read your captions. They already got like from a gut instinct whether or not they like you. And so they'll just look at your post and be like, oh yeah, I already like this person, immediately follow you, like within 3 seconds, just decide. So do you at all identify with this one?
I think that one may be me. So
okay, I didn't want to call you out.
Well, I know I just know that the I, because my coach deals with that with me, and he just tell like the I is inducement, and because I'm a charming guy, what can I say? That's all I know about me. That's all I really know. But it sounds like that is me because I do go with my gut most of the time. Like I'm very on the intuitive side. So far that's me. But what's the fourth one?
Well, and also what you were saying earlier, you kind of gave yourself away because you're like, you can smell the BS.
There you go.
Yeah. They know immediately what's real and what's not. And the more you are really yourself, the more they love you. But if they pick up on you not being yourself, they will leave. Like they're not going to buy anything or follow you or anything. Drop
them all.
So the fourth one is the slow decision maker. I actually really identify with this decision maker, me myself, because first of all, like as we were talking, I'm writing. I really like lists and I process through writing, and I'm constantly like a detailed person. I have a list for the day and then I push things that I don't get done to the list for tomorrow. And when they like engage with your brand, they will ask you a lot of questions before they buy. They are the type that are like, okay, I know you have like an 11 billion long word sales page, but I still have questions. But I used to, like, as a copywriter, I'd be like, man, I wrote this beautiful sales page for myself or my client. And then this person's still asking me questions. Did they not read the page? They did. They just want to know that it's actually for them before they buy it. It makes them feel safe about the purchase. So now I love it. I'm like, oh, good. They're asking me questions. That means this is the beginning of the sales process for them. Yeah. But I will say, like, there's certain people who don't want to include all four like buying types. And I totally understand why. Like, if you're, let's say, like you mentioned you have a coach. If you're a coach for people who are all like CEO types, they can't slow down. Like when they're being coached, if they're in a room with people, like they don't want to slow down for the slower decision makers. They're like, I've already processed this. Can we please move on? Right. So there are times where you might want to exclude someone from your audience, but it's rare. I like a well-rounded community of all four buyer types.
So each ad or each advertising piece that you decide is going to be focused on one particular type, or is it we're trying to hit each different type, or are we trying to hit maybe the D's and the I's that are more dominance and inducement focused?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on where you're in the launch sequence, but let's just say, generally speaking, your emails, your ads, your sales pages, your social posts, organic or paid, doesn't matter. You do want to try to appeal to all four buyer types unless you've made a conscious decision that you don't want a certain buyer type in your audience. So I prefer if you can hit a crescendo of appealing to all four, particularly when you're announcing a new product. So you're at the start end of putting a new product out into the world, digital or physical. that you try to appeal to all four at first, because that's when you have the most attention and eyeballs. And so unless you don't want someone to buy it, you should try to reach all four at once. And then over time, like throughout the entire launch sequence of whatever you're offering, you can do pieces of content that are meant just for that color to see how it performs, using the disc, like doing all, like you said, the D or all I. You can test it out and see like who's really responding here, who is my audience really. You start to get like a temperature and barometer for who they are and what they want from you.
Did you know who William Marston is? Does that name ring a bell?
No, I'm gonna write it down. Who is it?
Okay, so in 1928 he wrote a book. One of my favorite American psychologists. All the people do on this podcast, we're talking about psychologists, but he wrote a book on this characteristic. It's called Emotions of Normal People, and his viewpoint was that based on these four types, there are two underlying dimensions that influence people's emotional behavior. The first dimension, whether a person views the environment as favorable or unfavorable. So you really would just say, today we would say, are they more of a half glass full or a half glass empty type of cat? Then the second dimension is whether a person perceives themselves as having control or lack control of their environment. And these are things that I worked with this with more of trying to figure out stage fright. I dealt with stage fright for a little bit. And it was just really interesting looking at life that way. Cause but if you know where a person's coming from, the positive mumbo jumbo won't really work. You're going to have to be more of a realist with them. And then the other person who's more of a control freak wants that style. So I just found that interesting because I didn't even tell you this step. I do stand-up comedy at night. So this has been a whole journey of self-awareness and personal branding as well. So I'm all over the place, basically.
Well, I love this though. And look, when you get new lenses to look at the way that people operate, it gets really exciting. Like my one friend is in hypnotherapy and she tells me, and it's not stage hypnotherapy, it's like legit therapy. Although stages can be therapeutic in their own way. But what's interesting is she talks about the physical and the emotional, which are two different types of folks and how they see the world and how they operate. And in relationships, she's specifically been talking to me about that lately, how like physical people are meant to be with emotional people. And that's how you both process the world very differently, but you're meant to be in partnership with each other. And that part fascinated me because definitely I am a physical and my husband's an emotional. And so when you get these new lenses to look at the world around you, it just opens up so much in terms of understanding not just buyer types, but like, how do you relate to your team members? How do they relate to you? How do you relate to your customers? How do they relate to you? Like, these are important questions to understand, because the deeper you get into your strengths and understanding your strengths, the more effective anything you do is going to be. If it's asking your husband to walk the dog, or if it's, you know what I mean? Like, it could be brought down to like the very basic level of human needs and what we want and how we can support each other in them.
No, I love that. And that's like what this podcast is about. It's like self-awareness. I just feel like the first step in anything is becoming more self-aware. And like comedy gave me awareness. I thought it would just be, you tell jokes and it's funny. It is such a trip. Like the journey, I've learned more about like the way people view me in like 50 shows. Cause I went in thinking I'm this type of person. And like, you know, you take in your conditioned experiences of whatever, being the fat kid and this and that. And then all of a sudden the guy's coming up to me, the owner of these comedy clubs, like, you got to stop doing that shtick and just do like the hot guy funny stuff. I was like, I'm the hot guy? He's like, yeah, Scott, you're fucking with comedians. Like comedians are schleps. Like, I don't know if you get it. I was like, holy shit, I became the hot guy. I was like, this is really cool. And then all of a sudden you change something. And it's, for me, it's the same thing as like figuring out who you are, like that voice. It's
your archetype, right?
Yeah, exactly. Figuring out like whatever you're going to do, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have the same thing you were describing, like that personal touch, that personal feeling everybody gets when they meet you. Like everybody's just different, and finding that out first so you could figure out, well, what works, what doesn't. And even just to figure out who you are is important, I feel like, because most people live in incongruity with that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's fun too, because like, as my business has grown, like I'm very aware people see me as, initially, I like to pull them in with the data and the science and geeking out on the numbers in terms of launches and understanding statistics. So my brand image has like planets on it, and it looks very scientific in a way. Once they get deeper with me though, then I get very spiritual, and like the imagery is very spiritual. And my mastermind's even called the biz womb, come home to yourself, you know? So it's like, I get into that piece of it with them, but I don't lead with that because interestingly, I found with my audience, they want the data first.
And everybody's different, right? I just in my life, I just go straight towards the I want to know your soul. And that's like when you deal with, like I did now, my boss is very much like you when we go to a meeting with a billionaire, because he's like, what are we going to hit? I literally now, I just take it up and just throw away I'm like, give me, it's like a show I'm about to put on. Just let me do my thing and let me figure this out. And we're going to do this on the fly. And he gets like anxiety from like a 75-year-old Jewish guy from Long Island. He's like, what do you mean we're going to talk about their personalities? I was like, yeah, we're going to figure it out and all this stuff. And everybody's style is different, because I think there's also like an incongruity, like with you expect something from somebody and then you kind of get a little bit of a different style, like it's almost magic in a way is the way I try to like look at it. Like it's like you see something here, but it's not quite what you're getting. It's very, very cool.
And in the marketing world, we call it pattern interrupt, where you purposely interrupt their thought pattern with throwing them off kind of, and email subject lines are a really good place to do that. But you're right, like when you're in the room with someone, you can really pull out the cards and show them all your magic. And like when I work privately with clients, I go really deep fast too, and I love it. It's so fun to do.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome, Sage Polaris. That's why I was thinking I was just thinking I had to ask you. It was like, is that your full real name, Sage Polaris?
No, it's my chosen name. I chose to change it. Yeah.
It's a good choice. It just sounded too congruent for me, but I was like, she had to change it. Okay.
It's got to be a stage name. That can't be real. Yeah, totally.
I like that. Oh, good.
It's fun.
Well, everybody, you could find Sage's info in the notes below. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys so much. Do me a favor, click the like button, share it with your friends. Anything you had to do. If you're listening, thank you guys so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. Sage, thank you so much for joining me again. Seriously, I appreciate this.
It was my pleasure, Scott. I'm super excited we got to hang.
Cool. We're going to do it again.
Yes, please.
Cool. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.